and Networking Podcast promotes successful business experts. I'm Tom Reaoch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. Today we talk with Moira Hanna, a master in talking about business, joining us from Greenville, South Carolina. Moira Hanna is CEO and founder of the Coaching Hive, a business strategy specialist. She guides coaches in their career. Moira, what role does community play in building business?
I'm so glad you asked about community. It is something near and dear to my heart. And the fact of the matter is that community is foundational to every business, but even more so to entrepreneurs who are working alone or who are working with a really small team. Maybe they just have a VA or maybe just one other team member. So essentially, they're working solo, right? So when I think about community, what I actually think about is dividing it into two different buckets. The community that's out there that you go out and you sell your services or your products to, and the people that you network with, you go to that restaurant and you go to the Chamber of Commerce meetings. But then there's the other side of community that functions more in that coworker role. And these are the people that are going to be with you day in and day out. Right. They show up as your work colleagues, essentially. They are fellow entrepreneurs. But so often as businesses start, as entrepreneurs get started, what happens is they don't have anyone. They don't have colleagues to sit with, right?
Right.
Suddenly they're in their home office all by themselves, and there's no one to bounce ideas around with. There's no one to brainstorm. And the fact is, you aren't going to have all the answers yourself.
No.
You have to have someone that's there to listen, to give feedback. You need to have someone that's there on those tough days when you need that virtual cup of coffee from someone who understands what's going on in your business, and someone to celebrate when that very first Stripe payment of $147 rolls in. Right? It's your big day, but your friends and family don't understand that.
No, I agree with you right there. Families and close friends generally try to convince you that you should be doing something else.
Yes. So you need to surround yourself with those workday colleagues who know what it means, who are in the trenches with you, not necessarily in your business, but alongside you doing similar things. That is where you're going to sustain your motivation. That's where you find your collaborators, and it's how you stay accountable. Because day in, day out, you need someone to stand there and say, did you get it done? When you show up to the mastermind meetings, what happened? What's working? What's not? Well, if you didn't do anything, you have nothing to share.
Right. That's that what did they say thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so
I
you
agree
need
with you.
that
I couldn't
internal
agree
piece of
fully,
it.
because in networking, I found that, and my objective in networking, basically there are two. Most people think of this to two things: is either buying or selling, or finding a job, right? And obviously they're important and they're out there. But what I have always done, and that's why I agree with you, I consider my networking colleagues, they're allies. I need to be their ally, and they're going to be my ally. And it's really to the point that you said that they're colleagues. They've been in business or think about business or failed in business or gotten out, whatever. And they've been there. And I've created, even my podcast, I've created my own group of counselors. They're just independent, friendly persons that help me. Those are the person I can ask questions to.
Right.
And they'll
because
answer,
you won't
and I
have
will
all
say,
the
well,
answers.
think about that again, or yes, and celebrate. The celebration part, I think, is probably the most important. Because one thing, we stand in our room and celebrate by ourselves, and then some people think you're crazy. but we need to do that. We need to reinforce ourselves, because we talk about failure, but we need to also face and understand and assume the success.
Yes. And it's not waiting until things are really successful. It's those little baby steps. It's that first time Stripe dings at you saying you've got a new sale, or the first time a client says, I need to refer you to someone because I think it's going to be a great fit. And you didn't ask them to do that. We have to celebrate those little moments, because that's what keeps us going in business.
And to that point, it's not only, some people saying that I've referred to, it's when that phone or the message comes through and then you hear that it was Mary. Mary passed me your contact,
Yes.
and she said whatever. And that's where it comes from.
Yes.
And I think that's what we need. And most people, again, they're so actively involved in trying to sell or tell people about what they do.
Yes.
Sometimes it's better for a third person to feel what you do, and it comes out of being expressed better.
Absolutely. So I do think you need that external community. You still need to go out and create the connections out in your community where you live,
Right.
either virtually or in person. You need to network with other people. You need to go out and serve your community, do more good. You need to volunteer, because that's how you create the connections that will eventually turn into those sales, but in a more authentic and organic way than, here, please buy my thing.
Now, another word that jumps out is volunteering.
Yeah.
And that really is the essence of community. And community is what
It
you
is.
said. It's not only around the corner, it's the world today. We live in a world, a global community. And we can reach and we can be reached by people anywhere. And business
when you
is
do
that
that-
way. We can, our allies could be another company wanting to share or to collaborate or whatever, or find more or offer services. That's the way it goes.
And when you do that, when you get involved with that kind of more internal Workday colleague and your external community, you have that inspiration. You get to be inspiring, but you also get to be inspired. And when that happens, you are no longer this island of a
Right.
solopreneur. You are not figuring everything out for yourself. You are building a business that is genuinely doing more good in the world. It is thriving, it's profitable, it's sustainable, and you're fulfilling your vision for what you wanted when you first said, I'm an entrepreneur.
Well, that's the fuel in our tank.
Absolutely.
Very good, Moira. How can our listeners find you?
Great. So they can find me at www.coachinghive.com, or I'd love to connect also on Instagram at Coaching Hive. I'm always on there. Love to get DMs and start the conversation. I'm all about having a genuine conversation with people, one-on-one, getting to know you and what you need.
Very good. Well, thanks for being part today.
Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciated it.
And for our listeners, it's Moira Hanna, and the first name is Moira, last name Hanna. Moira, You'll find her at coachinghive.com. You'll find her Coaching Hive on Instagram and also on LinkedIn. Café Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at focusmi.com. Thanks for listening until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.